Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and joining me today, a man that criticizes all of you harshly, weekly, every single time we talk, but only off air. I don't know. I was going to go somewhere this. I ran out of gas. It is what it is. Joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, it's Richie the Whiz Kid.
He was trying to throw me under a bus for some reason, but then you found out that he was Otto driving the bus. It didn't really matter.
I'm like really chunky Otto right now, dude. My weight is off the charts right now. It's bad.
Apparently, you've been listening to Homer and some of his food criticisms or lack thereof.
He makes everything sound amazing.
But that's what we're here to talk about. So, yeah, I'm sorry that I apparently badmouth everybody out there. News to me. But I better throw it back to the guy that's going to lie, the man, the myth, part of the groin-grabbingly good team.
God, I love that line. Right off the bat, dude, I'm just gonna say I love this episode. I really, really love this episode. Like, it's this one. I had like when I saw the screenshot on IMDb, I was like, oh, I remember really liking this one. But then after rewatching it, it was like chef's kiss, if you will.
There's been a lot of times in my life that I've retold the scene of like Homer trying to write a review, but looking at the dog when the dog says bark and he goes like, or no, ruff, and oh, you've been pitching that all day. Chewy. Like I've done that so many times.
Dan, that's Dan Castellaneta that does that, and it's like so weird, but it like it's also so funny. But like, yeah, Santa's little helper talks in this one. But yeah, this is right off the bat. It's a really good episode. I mean, in a roundabout way, it is the classic pair up of Homer and Lisa, which we've actually talked about quite a bit in the past. How a lot of times those episodes can tend to feel similar, but then I think we always end up talking about how much we like them more watching them now than we did when we used to. So I don't know that I feel that way about this one because I really liked it then, but I also really like it now.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely more of a Homer-centric story, and the idea you're talking about is more in reference to the Lisa-centric ones. Like, Lisa really doesn't have anything to learn in this episode. It's Homer that's having to learn stuff for the most part. So
she has her one big stand moment where she she refuses to work with a man who thinks like that.
Mm-hmm. But like, that's not really news to any of us.
Yeah, and you could kind of see it coming the whole time. She was like irritated during that, but I will say on this episode, it was written by Al Jean, who, again, this season had returned from working on The Critic and just, taking a break from The Simpsons in general for a while. Al Jean was on this director's commentary as well with Mike Scully, Dan Graney, George Meyer, Matt Selman, Nancy Cruz, who was the director of this episode. And it was mentioned that Al Jean actually pitched this idea at one of the story retreats that we talked about when we had Carolyn Omine on the show, where the Simpsons get together every year. The Simpsons writers, I guess the Simpsons are kind of together. The Simpsons writers. It's weird when they actually take their time apart. It's a little bit awkward, but no, the Simpsons writers annually do a writers retreat where they all go. Sometimes it's just like a hotel together. Sometimes it's like camping or like wherever. But at this particular writing retreat, they pitched this idea and Al Jean took it and ran with it, made a great script out of it and turned it into this episode. It was mentioned, though, it's kind of funny that this episode was written after he came back from working on the show The Critic.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so weird to line all that stuff up with like what we're actually reviewing now too, just because it puts a lot of things in perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, really, it's not far-fetched to think that even just because he had the idea of The Critic, that it's perfectly reasonable that concept would make you think, I wonder what it'd be like if Homer was the critic. And actually, one of the things that Al Jean commented on in the commentary was that there was so much expanded universe that had happened like at his time away that there was a lot more side characters and auxiliary characters that could essentially have a bad reaction to Homer bad mouthing their business.
Yeah, and we may or may not see that in this episode.
So let's go ahead and dive into the beginning of the script. I forgot to. Oh no, there it is. I just have scrolled down too far. I'm kind of dumb. But the episode is called "Guess Who's Coming to Criticize Dinner." It originally aired on October 24th, 1999. The chalkboard gag on this one is "I am not the last Don," which is a mafia reference. I don't really understand what it's in reference to outside of that. And the couch gag on this one was kind of weird, but it had basically Matt Groening had like autographed the floor, and then Marge like cleans it up, and then Matt Groening actually comes back in and re-signs the floor.
Just trying something different, I guess. Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Does it wow you like the circus one did?
I don't know. I've seen that one so many times now. I think it's okay as well.
Well,
it tells my brain. It tells my brain they ran out of ideas on this episode.
I mean, quite the cynic when it comes to the couch gags.
Hey, everyone's a critic.
Yeah, I guess so. So we were kind of talking about it before we started recording, but this script starts out really weird on ours. I think it was like just somebody's like editorial on it, but it starts out, ever wonder why Springfield Elementary's test scores are so low? Maybe it's because the students are too busy going on field trips to learn anything. This time, the students are off to visit the local newspaper. Just feels like a lot. And I know I made it extra with the way I read it, but like it still just feels like a lot.
Extra.
Read all about it.
Yeah.
We start with Skinner. We see that he and groundskeeper Willie essentially are the chaperones at the newspaper where they are taking the kids.
No, they're not. They're staying behind.
Yeah, you're right. They're going to stay behind to remove all traces of asbestos from and the word evolution from their school. Good joke.
Yeah.
And you see Willie wearing a Hawaiian shirt too.
Next stop, Margaritaville. Oh, they're still here.
It turns out maybe they had other plans.
And I love Willie's shirt there too, because that's like the only time you see him wearing something different.
Yeah, 100%. There's also kind of a fun little gag that they start in this episode, and they start it right off the bat because Skinner says, I'd like to ask each child to pair up with a buddy so no one gets lost.
Come to think of it, I haven't seen Ooter since the last field trip.
Ooter? I don't remember any Ooter. Silly name, Ooter. And this is actually a reference to the last time we saw the Springfield Elementary School go on a field trip. Was during the episode The PTA Disbands, which was like 4 seasons back. And basically in that one, we see Ooter fall behind while running towards the school bus at the Civil War reenactment. And he basically gets like caught up with that. And the joke is that they're trying to cover it up as a school. It's hilarious.
It's hilariously dark.
Well, and then according to the commentary, like this is actually kind of a running gag in several other episodes as well. In fact, they say they do it pretty much every time that they remember. Which always makes me laugh because sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I guess he's here today.
Poor Ooter.
So we actually cut to Springfield Nuclear Power Plant where we see that Homer is not actually there because we actually see that Homer is like one of the chaperones and Lisa's like, how are you able to get away from work? And we cut to his office where there's a cassette playing. It says singing, I work hard for the money. It's actually him singing it too. But it's like a bucket head and a mop and not Homer Simpson.
Yeah, when Mr. Burns sees it, well, there's an employee, Smithers, a smile on his lips and a song in his heart. Promote him.
I love that a mop and a bucket literally is doing Homer's job better than Homer does. That's pretty
Not
good.
really, though, because in the next scene where he's promoted, he catches on fire. So,
well, he just can't handle success well. That's all that means.
I don't think you want your promoted safety inspector to catch on fire. That looks bad.
True. You also really instantly notice, or at least I did, in the next scene, we see that Homer's actually driving Milhouse, Nelson, and Bart and Lisa all, I guess, home from the newspaper. And Milhouse isn't wearing a seatbelt, but it becomes very, very clear, or very, very the reason becomes clear very soon because basically Nelson like punches Milhouse and he kind of slinks off the seat.
Yeah, and Homer's like, God bless you, Nelson Muntz.
He loves it when he hits the dweeb.
Mm-hmm.
Homer gets the kids to where he, I guess, thought they were going. Here we are, kids, the zoo.
Well, that's great, Dad, except you're supposed to drive us to the newspaper.
Oh. We do cut back to the newspaper where the guide is actually welcoming them to the Springfield Shopper, which was established in 1883. The newspaper was founded by Johnny Newspaper Seed, a 14-year-old boy who roamed America founding newspapers.
If he's so smart, how come he's dead?
That is, of course, a reference to Johnny Appleseed, which is like a legend, I guess. I don't know what you call it. I was going to say old wives' tale. That's definitely not the correct
kind of something we were taught when we were kids.
Yeah, I definitely thought that's how apples were made. Because one time I saw the apple growing in the closet and the apple looked at me.
Can we talk about the fact that school buses are so slow when they go on field trips that Homer had the time to drive all the kids that he was with to the zoo and then still make it back to the newspaper in time for the start? Yeah, like
100%.
That's totally how it actually works in real life. And nice touch in this moment when Homer and the kids he's with come into the newspaper office. He's actually holding a balloon from the zoo.
Nice.
So they actually went in and bought some.
Go to the gift shop or whatever.
Yeah, I really like that touch.
We learned that over the years, the Shopper merged with the Springfield Times, Post, Globe, Herald, Jewish News, and Hot Sex Weekly to become #1 newspaper. And
our only newspaper.
Lisa's like looking around with like admiration as she sees reporters doing journalism. But then as we see it pan back, it turns out the reporters are just telemarketers trying to sell subscriptions.
Mm-hmm. That's probably how it is.
Newspaper is, yeah. Very little news. We do see a room with one single man working at an easel.
And this is our comic strip department. Who here reads Mary Worth? Let's move on.
And you can see the artist, the comic artist, is like super frustrated.
To be fair, I never read it either.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Who did? Nobody. I'm pretty sure it was just there to fill space.
Absolutely.
They actually just ran the same comic strip every single day because nobody ever noticed. So they just rearranged the panel order. But they also come across a place where it's like 2 women in stasis tubes, and it's where they store Ann Landers and Dear Abby for their 23-hour-a-day sleep cycle.
My advice is to free us or to let us die.
They did talk about this on the commentary as well. They were just kind of fascinated with the idea that apparently Ann Landers and Dear Abby legitimately were twin sisters that ended up growing up and having rival opinion columns or advice columns, I should say. This actually, like they pointed it out on the commentary as well, but it almost felt like a Futurama joke to some extent. Like it had like that aspect to it. But they just got a kick out of the idea that these 2 twin sisters were like, just giving advice for their whole life. And they were both alive at the time that this episode aired.
Oh.
Yeah, that means that they were not anymore. But hey, it's still kind of just a fun little reference.
All right. So moving along from the obituary section,
we can see the headlines from the day that you were born.
I love Check Homer. It out, Dad. You can pull out the headlines from that.
But when Homer types in his date, it comes up with the headline, "Unusually large, ugly baby born."
But it looks just like Homer, too. Like, it's blatantly obvious. It's a headline news, page 1, too.
Oh, I'd sure hate to be him. Ooh. So they continue the tour where they learn that the newspaper is also environmentally responsible because a certain percentage of recycled newsprint is used in each paper.
And then Lisa asks, what percent is it?
0. 0 is a percent. So Homer actually smells cake coming from the break room, and he boldly declares, "Hey, I smell cake. Cake that says farewell and best wishes."
Your old man has an awesome nose.
Oh, that's nothing. He can hear pudding.
Oh,
I really like that line. I think that's really funny. And it makes sense, like, in addition to being unbreakable, that Homer would be like, he'd have super senses as well.
I mean, we saw it in the Boy Scout episode. He said, he saved everybody with his nose, so makes sense.
True, yeah. So we actually see that the cake is for the now retiring food critic, and they are saying their farewells. Mimi is her name, and she's like a very dry, like what you would expect from like I don't know, like the New Yorker to have for their food critic or something. But what can I say except thanks for the predictable champagne, pizza that's hardly numero uno, and ice cream cake that reminds us why make 31 flavors when you can't get vanilla rights.
I wouldn't want to be married to her. I mean, again.
So that right there is the newspaper editor, who is actually voiced by Ed Asner. And there is a lot of similarity. They're essentially throwing homage to, or a parody of, or referencing the fact that Ed Asner actually pretty much played this role in the show Mary Tyler Moore.
I won't lie to you, man. I was never big into Mary Tyler Moore.
I used to watch Nick at Night a lot when I was growing up, and I would watch I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, and Mary Tyler Moore for a good while, like pretty much every single night. Mary Tyler Moore, I don't think holds up as well as some of the others. It's still a really good show, but I think more for a lot of things, like the impact that show had was putting a female comedian in the lead role, and just kind of having an empowered female character for that time period. But it's still funny, but definitely it doesn't hold up to the level of like I Love Lucy or Dick Van Dyke, in my opinion.
Fair enough. For me, it was basically just I Love Lucy.
It might just not be my thing. That's also very, very fair and possible.
Well, The Simpsons likes to reference it every once in a while too. I think the last time we saw Bart doing some "I'm gonna make it after all" scene or something. I don't remember.
I know Lisa has a scene where she like poses with the hat throw, and it's exactly like the credits. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They've referenced it on more than one occasion. But Homer comes and decides to take a sample slice or two, or like basically cuts into this freshly uncut cake. And the food critic is like, "Who are you, and why are you ruining my retirement party?"
"I'll have you know I wandered off from the tour."
"Well, at least you like the food."
"Oh, I like food, all right."
And Homer actually breaks out into a little song here.
"I like pizza. I like bagels. I like hot goods with mustard and beer.
I get the picture.
I'll eat eggplants. I could even eat a baby deer. La 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 la. Who's that baby deer on the lawn there?"
Enough already.
Sorry.
Hey, listen, I just had a thought. We're looking for a new food critic. Someone who doesn't immediately poo-poo everything he eats.
No, it usually takes a few hours.
And I will admit right here, it's not above me. That is absolutely the best joke of this episode. Oh my God, I laughed so hard at that. Yes, I am 5 and I'm fine with it.
All right.
Look, I'd like to give you a tryout. Write a 500-word sample review. If it passes muster, we'll put you on staff.
Thanks for the chance. You won't never regret this, Mr. Editor Guy.
So we cut back to the Simpsons home where Marge is, or we see Homer's like hunched over the typewriter, but Marge is like, "Homie, you know the E doesn't work on that typewriter."
"We don't need no stinking E."
He's trying to come up with a name for the column.
"Restaurant review? No. Eatery evaluation? No." I like that one, actually.
Yeah.
"Food box? Go or no go by Homer? No. Earl? No. Bill Simpson."
And we immediately cut back to the office where we see the editor literally laughing Homer out of the office, and he legitimately thinks it's a joke. I mean,
well, at first you think he's laughing because it's just so good.
What's that?
like I think the first time I saw it when he's first laughing, you think it was just so good that it was funny, or that Homer was so bad that it was funny, and that was going to be the gimmick.
But
like I thought it was going to turn into a thing the first time.
I feel you, yeah. But it turns out, no, he's just feels like this is the stupidest thing he's ever read. I mean, you keep using words like Paschetti and Mamados. You make numerous threatening references to the UN. And you repeat the word screw Flanders over and over again.
Oh, it's so hard to get 500 words. Which Screw Flanders has 2 E's in it, so how can you type that?
500 words is like a very small article. So really, it's like, if anything, I feel like it might be more difficult to review. I talk way too much, I'm aware, but it would be more difficult for me to review food in less than 500 words, basically.
I don't know how he wrote Screw Flanders or Biscotti without the E.
So the without an E thing was actually a reference to a possible reference. They didn't really talk about it too much, but they did mention it on IMDb. Basically, there is they believe that there's a entire like French play or movie, or there's something written in French that was entirely written without the letter E. And then in the movie Misery, or the book Misery, the author that's like basically captured in that, like at one point he's using a typewriter and the E doesn't work. So it's a possible reference to both of those things. Either way, it's a really funny idea.
It sounds like a lot of Mizrahi to write like that.
Yeah, French novel, excuse me, without the letter E. That's what it was. Yeah. So we see that like Homer tries to like backtrack real quick. He's like, no, I was really kidding. I'll be right back with the real review. But when we see back at the Simpsons home, he's just sitting in the bathtub, like scrubbing himself, like saying like, still not off, still can smell the failure. The only thing that's kind of weird about this scene is the water is like continuously running and his back is to it. So really the water should be like overflowing like crazy at this point.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Good catch there. Creep watching Homer in the bathroom.
Hey, what can I say? Since you mentioned that, actually, I just thought it was funny that they talked about this on the IMDb as well. Although the full frontal nude scene of Bart in the Simpsons film caused much controversy, this episode is actually the first instance of a Simpsons character uncensored genitalia being shown. And it's actually earlier when we talked about it, but when Homer looks at the front page of the newspaper and you see his picture of the day he was born, he is very much anatomically correct.
I didn't think in those terms. Like the way you first started that sentence, I was like, excuse me?
Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
This is the late night show now, since we're recording later than we usually do for whatever.
We're grabbing we good fun.
That's a good line too. Almost as good as poo poo.
Oh.
So yeah, back at home though, Lisa basically agrees to help out her father only because it's like, I'll agree to help you if you just let me use the bathroom, I think.
Yeah.
So first thing they have to do is decide what restaurant should they review to begin with. And Lisa points out, well, we went to Pâté La Belle's last week. How about that?
Great. Now let me think. The food was...
And he actually licks his like stained shirt, which apparently is still stained from that place from a week ago.
Was not undelicious.
And Lisa types on her computer, the food is delicious.
Ooh, that's brilliant. And they had this sweet, sweet chocolate mousse. Really, the only word to describe it is...
What's the English equivalent for... I love Lisa doing that for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's really cute.
I'd say transcendent.
Nice. How about groin-grabbingly transcendent?
I don't think so.
We make a good team. A groin-grabbingly good team.
And we finally see 498 words.
How about Screw Flanders?
Bon appetit.
They're both good.
So one other thing I'll quickly point out on this scene is in the commentary, they did mention that Pâté La Belle's joke, got pitched for many, many, many hours, far more than effort was expelled for how like the joke result ended up. But I do think it's a good joke. But they said they spent way too long working on that, which is just kind of funny.
Yeah, and then just to get you to have that moment of like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. I'm talking about you, Miles, not like you, the listeners.
I got you.
Yeah, that was a jab at Miles.
They're both good. No, but so another thing on the commentary for this one that they talked about, I just had it up. My bad. You distracted me by making me laugh. I don't even know. Whatever. We'll move on. That actually
stop the presses.
Screw Flanders. No, but yeah, that's what it is. We're back at the Springfield Shopper. The editor is actually like reading this one and is like, wow, not bad. We're going to run this on page 1 of section H2.
Woohoo! Stop the presses.
And that's where we actually see one of the factory workers hits a like emergency stop button, which causes everything to go into like a jam. And Homer takes his like handwritten article and just lays it into the conveyor belts.
Okay, start the presses.
That takes 4 hours.
Whatever. I'll be at Moe's.
And that brings us to the end of our first act, which I love. Just like, I feel like we just need to make sure we point out how very like casual Homer was with the whatever, I'll be at Moe's. Like,
yeah.
Didn't care at all. It's like no problem to him. And he probably just cost this newspaper literally thousands of dollars.
Thousands of newspapers, at least.
Easily, right? Yeah. Oh, I was going to mention earlier, we talked a little bit about how this is kind of where we see the Homer and Lisa team up portion of the episode. But I do agree with you from the beginning that whereas a lot of times those episodes tend to be a more Lisa centric storyline, this is a more Homer centric storyline for sure.
Absolutely.
But we do kick off our second act with Homer really seeming to be digging his new job. Like, this is one of those times where you see like Homer is really happy. He's successful. Marge is proud of him. The first review gets printed and Marge is like congratulating him. He's like, Marge, it's important that no one knows I'm a food critic, which they're out to eat whenever they do so.
And everybody hears it. Ned starts going,
Homer's a critic.
And then Maude, Homer's a critic? Pass it on.
Did you hear? Homer's a critic. And that's Skinner talking to Ooter's parents.
I don't remember this moment with Ooter's parents, but it made me really laugh. Quit changing the subject. Where is Ooter?
Oh, we just want closure.
Oh, that's so bad.
Again, I love that they're just going to make this a running. They're just like, I guess we don't really need Ooter as a character anymore, so we'll just use him as a running punchline.
He's doing more in his passing than he ever did while he was here.
Honestly, that's probably true for a lot of us.
Oh.
All right, let's brighten up our day here a little bit. Moving on. But yeah, basically Homer is very, very quickly outed as a food critic. And this, of course, means that he's going to get special treatment from the various places that he goes. Right now, they're at Captain McAllister's Seafood Bucket. And they bring out, or Captain McAllister himself actually brings out the Critic Special. He does mention if anything is still moving, that's just extra freshness. Arr.
I can't believe he's getting paid to do something like eat.
The only way it could be better is if Bart actually points out, like, the only way it could be better is if you got paid to scratch your butt, too.
I was really upset because I remembered that gag, but the streaming service I was using to watch it cut it off halfway through Bart's line. And I was really upset about that.
Yeah, that is frustrating. We should talk about getting you set up on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah, that'll be so much better.
I mean, they don't cut off.
I can see everything.
They fixed their asset show, and they don't cut off mid joke now. So it's
wow.
Still have to bust out the DVDs for the director's commentary though. I'm waiting for them to add that, and it'll be old digital. But no, I like the DVDs. It's fun. Though I will say, quick side note on season 11's box set, fuck that accordion bullshit, guys. Like, I don't know what y'all were thinking when you printed these box sets, because there is no way to get the disc out without having to risk like dropping the other one or scratch. Like I hate this box set, but it is what it is.
We'll have to start a
I rant for the day.
we'll have to start a Best Darn Diddly review of just the boxes.
We're gonna go into we'll get some blueprints out. We'll take measurements. We'll go into the deep dive of creating the perfect Simpsons box set case. I will. It's better than like the ones that are shaped like the characters' heads. I thought those were so cool when those came out, and now I hate that I bought those. I so wish I just bought the regular box. They're awkward, they're clunky, they don't open well, like they don't close. It's just a bad design, guys.
I owned season 6 for a while. I think that was Homer's head or something. And
season 6 is Homer's head. Season 10
that one irritated me.
Bart's head is actually the worst because it's got the spiky top. It spikes a little bit, and it won't line up. But man, that was like a whole season ago. I really should have talked about that box, like on one of those episodes. But oh well.
It's in the past, man.
Oh man, I also love this joke here coming up because we see an article that was printed. Cod is great, Scrod is good, and Lisa's actually reading it because it's her first published article, although someone else's name is on it.
Welcome to the humiliating world of professional writing, but this is only the beginning.
Oh, that pain. All right. So they move on to review a new, I guess, chain restaurant or gimmick restaurant. And gimmick is what we'll call it for the sake of keeping the wrestling thread going. But it's Planet Springfield, which is basically a parody of Planet Hollywood. We see that they have all sorts of cool stuff from various movies, including the Kane from Citizen Kane.
Wait a minute. There was no Kane in Citizen Kane, except apparently there were a couple.
Yeah, I read the same thing. While the Kane in Citizen Kane was definitely not the main focus, there were apparently at least one. I saw there was at least one background character that was walking with a cane.
I read an article saying there was a lady with a cane, and then read an article where there was like a dance number with somebody with a cane, and I don't know if that was the same person. Because to be honest, I've never seen Citizen Kane. I've always heard
it's not good. Apparently it's groundbreaking, but yeah, I tried to watch it in high school, and it was just like, oh. It was
groundbreaking back when it came out, and that's fine. But now it's just going to break the ground with your head hitting the floor from watching it.
Oh, and things that also might make you hit the floor. We see Homer is at the revolving restaurant of Springfield, which they did point out in the commentary. This restaurant revolves far faster than any of the real ones do because the real ones don't have to fit in jokes in a set amount of time. They're eating and reviewing this restaurant. They're seeing all this great scenery and going across, and then it goes past Patty and Selma's apartment where they're working out, and Homer literally collapses, passes out.
After saying the scenery looked beautiful.
We move on to see Homer walking about town, and there's a couple of things we notice. First, we notice that Homer is getting a lot of respect and acknowledgement from the townspeople of Springfield. Like Lenny, for instance, tells Homer, "Great call on that chicken place and on that rib place. I never knew everything was so good." And Lenny actually has a piece of chicken and a thing of ribs in both hands, one in each hand.
Look, Marge, I'm making a difference in people's lives.
That's when we pan out to notice the second part of this scene, and that literally every townsperson in Springfield is now the overweight version of themselves, including Letty, including Otto. For whatever reason,
the comic book guy.
But we do see Mr. Burns, who comes up and even compliments Homer. First of all, he recognizes Homer, and then he compliments him.
Yes, Simpson, your love of food is contagious. I've never felt jollier.
Crunch, crunch.
Oh, there goes my shin bones again.
And we see that Mr. Burns's nimble old bones cannot handle the extra weight that has been put upon him since he's getting everything that Homer reviews favorably, apparently.
Which we'll find out how much that is momentarily.
We cut back to the newspaper where the editor invites Homer to come meet some of his colleagues. At first, Homer's all worried. He's like, "Oh no, are you going to fire me for swiping office supplies?"
No.
Oh, good. And he takes one of those click clack ball sculpture things. I don't know. It like clicks on both sides and swings back and forth. I don't know if that makes sense over without the visual, but he takes it off of somebody's desk and shoves it down his shirt where it continues to click back and forth. It is immediately gone a second later when the joke's over.
Where did it go?
But all it is, he's like, oh, thank God you're not firing me for that. But they just wanted to meet some of the other critics. Like, for instance, there's the TV and theater critic and even the farming critic.
But he does not like the TV critic.
Oh, yeah. When he gets introduced to everybody, but the TV critic he immediately has disdain for.
Why, you made them cancel Platypus Man, and he's shaking the guy.
Homer, this is our theater critic, Daphne Beaumont. And he immediately turns away from Daphne and goes right back to the TV editor.
And the Cosby Mysteries. That show had limitless possibilities.
I kind of feel that, honestly. Like, sometimes they cancel shows, and I'm like, really? That had legs. You should have given it a chance. I mean, the Cosby Mysteries were pretty solid.
There you go.
Homer apologizes, but he ends up talking with the farm supply critic who just got back from the gopher poison show in Paris. And let me tell you something, people. The days of clubbing them with a baseball bat are over.
For you, perhaps.
He still has to practice for whacking day.
There you go.
But listen, Homer, we've been meaning to talk with you. Your reviews, everything's a rave. 9 thumbs up? What the hell is that?
I've given out my fair share of bad reviews.
The only bad review you gave was to the slice of pizza you found under the couch.
It lost some points because I had a Hot Wheel on it.
This episode is so good, dude. There's so many great jokes, and like all of them just barely fall short of poo-poo. Like right there every time. Good Lord, man, you're a critic. You don't have to like everything. E.g. my latest review. We see John Deere has come out with this year's line of rototillers, and surprise, surprise, they're green. I say it's time to send John Deere a Dear John.
Oh, that's classic.
You don't have to patronize me.
Okay.
It just stops abruptly. And we now see Homer is still going at it, but he's been affected by his fellow critics. But we see he's actually at a dinner theater where Krusty is performing on stage with another actor who says, Lord, thy daughters Goneril, Reagan, and Cordelia.
What is this, merry old England or Petticoat Junction?
Boo!
Hey, lighten up. It's a comedy.
No, it's not.
It's not?
So they're supposed to be doing King Lear, and Krusty's playing the title character. But we cut out to Homer with the family, and Homer is now negatively reviewing the food. In fact, he's kind of got some good lines going here. He says, this pea soup is as weak as the acting and nowhere near as hammy.
Sorry.
That's a good review if you don't like the soup.
Dad, that's so mean.
The other critics told me to be mean, and you should always give in to peer pressure.
But what if someone bad tells me
always. And we actually cut back to stage where Krusty is now reviewing the script.
Whoa, this material stinks. I'm going to have to punch it up on the fly. Oh, I got one. How do you make a King Lear? You put the queen in a bikini.
Boo!
That joke's hilarious. Come on. Here's another one. Knock, knock. Who's there? Juliet. Juliet who? Juliet ate so much pasta Fagilo Romeo doesn't want her anymore.
Boo!
Ugh, tough crowd. They're booing Shakespeare.
That's such a good Krusty line.
Did you see the paper the next day?
Actually is printed, and it's his first scathing review. It even calls Krusty the worst King Lear in 400 years.
Oh, I thought it said 40. Man, that's way funnier.
Homer's bad reviews he basically just starts going on a negative run here. He goes to Luigi's where he talks bad about the lasagna, and there's actually like the chef comes from the back with a knife.
He takes a couple swings at Homer too, and he's even like, "Well, if you would have cut this better than, or if you would have cut better than you were, then maybe it would taste better." And then he turns to the son and goes, "Oh, I take it back."
You cut a slice of my
Yeah, he cuts a slice of his ear and he goes, "Touche."
touche. That's what it is. You're right. And this is where Homer takes it too far in this next scene because he's at home where his lovely wife has made his favorite meal and declares lovingly, "Who wants pork chops?"
Sorry, Marge. I'm afraid this gets my lowest rating ever. 7 thumbs up.
Homie, you always liked my pork chops.
Marge, I'm sorry, but your cooking's only got 2 moves. Shake and bake.
You like shake and bake. You used to put it in your coffee.
God. People change, Marge. My palate has grown more sophisticated.
Oh, yeah? What's a palate?
Oh, it's a special time in a boy's life when gotta go.
He just runs out of the room. I love that. I love the line, you used to put the shake and bake in your coffee. Oh, my God. It's both gross and hilarious.
Oh.
So some Homer, sorry, we should get back to Homer and Lisa are now working again together in Lisa's room. And Homer is essentially calling out for what he wants Lisa to call to type. Some come to the legless frog if you want to get sick and die and leave a big garlicly corpse. P.S. Parking was ample.
Dad, you're being cruel for no reason. What will people think?
People will think what I tell them to think. Where people will tell. God damn it. People will think I tell them you think when you tell me what to tell them to think. Nailed it.
Uh-huh. Not anymore. You're not nailing it, Miles. You're going to have to redo the script over and over and over. And I don't want to be partners with a man who thinks like that.
Can't read a script. And Lisa actually walks out of the room. But Homer is angry. Nobody talks to me that way. I'm Homer Simpson, the most powerful food critic in town, who will never get his comeuppance. You hear me? No comeuppance. We'll be right back.
I actually really like him yelling no comeuppance.
I love how like angry and passionate he gets, and he just calmly turns to the fourth wall and announces the act break, essentially, because that does bring us to the end of our second act. And I wonder what Homer might receive in his third act. I guess we'll find out.
Well, no comeuppance. He just said he won't get any.
True. Will he be correct? We will find out. We do find out that Homer at least believes that he doesn't need Lisa to write a good review, and he's trying one on his own. The food at the Gilded Truffle really, what's a good word? And Maggie's right beside him and sucks on her pacifier. Stop! That's great. And the bread was really, come on, Santa's little helper, help me out here.
Ruff!
Rough? I don't know. You've been pitching that all night.
Chewy?
Chewy! That's inspired. Again, this is a creep. Like, honestly, it's borderline creepy when Santa's little helper, like, it's so weird.
Nice.
It's a good job doing this voice.
But it gets better with like how the editor responds in the next scene.
Homer, what gives with this review? You say the salad tastes like bark, and the potatoes were very grrr. This reads like it was written by a dog.
Are you crazy? A dog can't type, unfortunately.
Listen, you've got to shape up. Next week is the Taste of Springfield Festival. You'll be reviewing every restaurant in town. Remember, people have certain expectations about the Lifeways section.
Really? Like what?
Oh, I don't know. Astrology, Brunhilde, vacation horror stories, articles about chronic fatigue syndrome. You know, chick crap. We see that a lot of the restaurateurs in Springfield are kind of meeting up in preparation to try to do something about Homer's like tirade of bad reviews.
Instead of a soiree, never mind.
Sorry, I missed it. We see Captain McAllister, Kira the sushi chef. Luigi is there. It's a whole meetup.
See, man, as he's referred to in the script.
Homer, he's out of control. He gave me a bad review. So my friend put a horse head on the bed, and he ate the head and gave it a bad review. True story.
Arg. Well, I've had it with Homer. His bad reviews are sinking our businesses.
Why did you put yours in the window?
Arg, it's covered up the D from the health inspector.
Well, I say we ban Homer from our restaurants.
No, that would be impolite. I say we kill him.
And Akira actually pitches a plan where they kill Homer at the Taste of Springfield Festival. But after only a bare minimum of hesitation, they agree. And we see the French chef actually unveils what should be the instrument of Homer's death, an eclair.
Ooh, sounds tasty. And that would kill me.
Come on, man, you're going to kill him with a pastry? I've seen this man eat a bowl of change.
This eclair is over 1 million calories, 25 pounds of butter per square inch, covered with chocolate so dark that light cannot escape its surface.
And everybody is kind of like leaning in, like trying
to grab the picture.
Yeah, they're all just
a
like
picture,
plan, basically.
No. This is just a picture. But Homer Simpson will find the real thing both delicious and deadly.
Ah, yes. Death by chocolate.
And poison. I'll stick some poison.
Do we already see right here? Is it later where he's like literally dumping butter in one tube, poison in the other, and he's like filling the pastry with it, and then he actually adds antidote before realizing like, no, I don't need that part.
That's at the festival.
So we cut back again. We cut to the Taste of Springfield now, and the whole Simpsons there.
Whole Simpson?
The whole Simpsons family is there, jerk.
Oh, okay.
Marge even says, though, homie, my women's intuition's acting up. Something bad's going to happen if you go there.
Oh, Marge, something bad usually happens to me when I go in anywhere.
He steps in a puddle and gets hit by a frisbee and then attacked by a bat.
Ah, a bat. Now that's a new one.
Lisa and Homer run into each other, and it's a little bit awkward because Lisa's like, Lisa is actually now assigned to cover the festival for her school newspaper. And of course, she was ghostwriting Homer's articles just weeks before. Mm-hmm. And this is actually where we see the coalition of restaurateurs who are plotting to get Homer. McAllister is like, Lord ho, 'tis a good sign. Homer has unfastened the top button on his pants.
Oh no, he's been walking around like that since Thanksgiving.
I'm surprised he doesn't just give it up and go for sweatpants.
He says the crotch wears out too fast.
Arr, that's gonna replace the whale in my nightmares. Both very white. But Bart actually overhears these guys talking about how they're going to knock off Homer, and he goes to run. He goes and tries to tell Marge, basically. So if we don't find Dad, this crazy French guy is going to kill him.
Only your father could take a part-time job at a small-town paper and wind up the target of international assassins. Which I really like that line.
They say the Simpsons split up. They all go looking. This is where we see the chefs are like putting the poison and butter and accidentally for a second antidote into the eclair. Ned actually sees this happening, but Ned Flanders, but he gets shooed away.
Well, he wants to try the eclair, and the French are like, shoo, no.
But that's finally when Homer actually shows up, and immediately his eyes are drawn to this beauty. I mean, it was created for him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet.
Dad, no! It's going to kill you!
I've had a good run.
And Lisa can't get to him in time to stop him.
She's going into panic mode. She knows she's not going to be able to actually physically stop him from eating this thing. So she has one last-ditch effort.
Don't! It's low fat.
No! And he actually like tosses the eclair away, which it hits a booth that Mole Man is in, and it for whatever reason explodes, because I guess that's what happens when you mix poison, butter, and just a touch of antidote.
Yeah.
Wow, that was close. Thank God it landed in that smoking crater. We see the Frenchman is running off, but is captured by the cops. But fortunately for him, the cops are too busy debating one another over. It doesn't say what they're debating about. Now I can't remember shit.
Where they wanted to go get some food for
Oh
lunch.
yeah, and it like, but Wiggum has such a great line. He's like, "Ah, Lou and your potatoes," or something like that.
Well, now I definitely can't remember it because you said potato.
Yeah, whatever.
He just thinks they're neat.
That's what it is. Him and Marge are having a secret little side thing going on.
Potato-thon or potato-thon.
Homer's grateful to his daughter who saved him, and after all the bad things I said about you.
What bad things? Why?
Oh, Lisa, the important thing is I didn't get my comeuppance, and I never will.
And that's when they start walking like towards the exit in the sun, but you see like all the other restaurateurs are still like brandishing knives and like circling in on Homer, because all he did was get the Frenchman notice. He didn't get any of the other people notice that want him dead right now.
Yeah, there's still a whole mob of people. Literally in Springfield fashion, there's a mob that has formed to kill Homer. It's not the first time this has happened. It just happens to be all restaurateurs in this instance.
So Lisa notices all these people like closing in on him as they're trying to leave, and she goes, Dad?
I know, honey. The important thing is run! And they take off sprinting towards the exit, and we actually fade to black as we hear Homer start to get attacked by the restaurant owners. Oh, finally getting my comeuppance. And that brings us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode. Guess who's coming to criticize dinner? Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours wants to talk about before we get on out of here?
I'm in the same boat as you on this one. Like, I didn't expect this to be the greatest of episodes, but I was just looking forward to reviewing it because of the stuff with the dog and the Chewy. And this had a lot of really good, quick one-liners that were like really, really fun. But then it also had a few of those like darker humor things that you and I fall along the lines of, like all the Ooter stuff, which I had no recollection of that happening. Well, I kind of remember the Ooter and like not them like kind of just writing him off, but like
we talked about it in the episode. It's just like they just totally blew off Ooter. Like we
yeah,
forget about him. I'm so excited to look for more instances of this moving forward.
Yeah, but like they had a good mix of quick little jokes, but then they added in some stuff like that I thought was just really fun to listen to. And again, we're in season 11 and we still got episodes that are being remembered one way, but like maybe being better than we even remember at one point. And for now, I would at least put this one a little bit better than what I remembered it to be. But either way, I very much enjoyed this one.
I know we're only three episodes into the season. I very strongly feel like this one is going to be a contender on my top 5 list. Like I feel that this one is going to be in the dance, so to speak, when we get there.
Oh,
that's
dancing with the devil.
We have a lot of great episodes to come, but I really enjoy this episode. There's so many great lines. Just across the board, I really, really liked it. There's one more fun story that I want to tell from the director's commentary. There was a scene in this where Homer was like swearing, and they were actually bleeping out the swears as part of the joke. That was the bleeps were actually in the script. Like that was never intended to like be anything else. However, during the table read, Dan Castellaneta as Homer actually went full on swear mode. He's saying motherfucker, goddamn this, and fuck that. And apparently just hearing Dan get like into full on swear mode, because they usually write like alternate swear words for him to say, you know, dough, for instance, instead of fuck. But just like hearing Dan Castellaneta as Homer swear was apparently just an absolute delight for like the rest of the cast and crew. It was just something that was super unexpected, but really, really funny, because in Dan Castellaneta fashion, he went way, way hard with it.
Yeah, that does not surprise me at all. I wish they had like a recording of that because I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, it's probably one of those mini lost things that like just will never come to be unless we get like a dope Dan Castellaneta documentary one day where they release a bunch of like lost footage, which we should push for what it's worth. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But I think that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly. Thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in, downloading, following, sharing, telling friends, and specifically thank you to Chris Manley for hanging out in the chat with us today.
Yeah. Hey, Chris. Bye, Chris. You can also follow Miles on Twitter at Mr. Most Days Off and pretty much everywhere online. You can follow myself at @thewiz_kid23. But most importantly, you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
And as we've announced a few episodes back, we are kind of starting a new thing this season where we are going to be alternating between reviewing classic Simpsons episodes in order, like this one that we just did. And then on the alternate weeks, we are just going to talk about just about anything. So next week, we will be back with a Best Darn Everything. I almost said anything again. I almost did it. Richie, do you have any preference on what we talk about next week? We haven't talked about it yet. I always put you on the spot on these.
Yeah, you always do that to me. Like I'm just supposed to be like
something. If not, we'll figure it out.
We always figure something out. That's the important thing.
Yeah,
we talk about the Simpsons.
We'll say yeah. We'll go into how much we love the Simpsons. That'll be new and fresh. That'll keep our love for podcasting alive. That's like if you're trying to spice things up in the bedroom and you get like the dildo that's shaped like the dude that's already in the relationship. What's that doing for anybody?
Wow. Okay, there. Maybe that's what we need to talk about next week.
Make a Willy kits is what we'll be talking about next week. Richie and I will figure out something that we're both passionate about. Probably won't
save our relationship.
And that will be Best Darn Everything, which is again something other than The Simpsons that we will talk about. So far, we've covered. We covered Cobra Kai last week. We talked about Cyberpunk 2077, which was a disaster. What else have we talked about?
We covered Die Hard during Christmas.
So that's right. So yeah, we'll come up with something fun that we both love, and we will talk about that next week. The week after that, we'll be back with another classic Simpsons episode. In fact, always my favorite time of the year because we are going to be talking about Treehouse of Horror 10.
Make sure you definitely come back to listen to two people who don't immediately poo-poo on everything after season 10.
Right. It usually takes a couple hours. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.